Debbie and I just love living out in the country, 20 acres surrounded by woods, nature, and serenity. It's a beautiful thing.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk about the brand new Sigma FPL. This is a camera released and announced in addition to the FP. It's not replacing the FP. And a while back when it was released, I reviewed the original FP right here on YouTube. I'll link to that in the description below. I loved that original FP for low light shooting. I shot it with manual M-mount lenses. I had that big old viewfinder that attached to the back because it was an amazing experience. But I also said this in that original review.
I just hope Sigma comes out with an electronic EVF that goes onto the hot shoe adapter. That would make it perfect because the EVF would be over here to the left and your nose wouldn't smush on the LCD screen. It would be quite nice for those who want this camera to take photos.
Well, today Sigma not only announced the FPL, they announced the EVF-11, the electronic viewfinder that attaches to the side ports and gives you a full electronic viewfinder experience. A 3.6 million dot EVF is inside and it's tiltable, right? So it's articulating. You can look into it from all kinds of angles. You can shoot waist level, look down at it, and this allows you to capture interesting angles, even if you're on the ground shooting up or what have you. Now, as cool as that original viewfinder is and was, you can still get it. The smaller EVF makes the camera more practical because this is still the smallest full-frame camera in the world. But the big news about the FPL is the brand new sensor. It's a 61 megapixel backlit illuminated bare sensor. Now this is super high resolution for 35 millimeter. It reminds me of the Sony a7R IV, right? But there's something about this sensor, there's something about the way Sigma implemented the color with this sensor. Now, this is not a Foveon sensor. Many people were hoping this would have a Foveon sensor in it, but it does not. Even so, Sigma's knowledge about color that they learned or do or deal with the Foveon sensors have somehow found its way into this sensor because the color coming from this camera is beautiful. Every clip I showed you in the intro, from the images to the video, is all straight out of camera. I did not color grade, I did not post-process. They are right out of camera, and I'll tell you, I mostly used the forest green preset. I think that's what it's called, right? Yeah, forest green. Because hey, I'm living in the middle of a forest here, so I figured it was appropriate. But when I saw the images in the video, I was blown away at the color. So for me, the special thing about the FPL is its sensor and the color reproduction. There's actually 15 color presets on the FPL. You could even turn off the presets to achieve sort of a flat colored look. You still have the neutral, the vivid, the standard, right? You still have the favorites like teal and orange, sunset red, forest green, and you have two new color profiles, powder blue and duotone. I had to remember what it was called. Duotone is rather interesting, and I'll show you some examples right here. It's probably for the more artsy and creative folks out there who want to use some funky colors in their production. One thing I forgot to mention is this does not have 5-axis image stabilization, but it does have electronic image stabilization. It does give a small crop, I think something like a 1.2 crop, but I'm going to film this little tree here and I'll show you the footage in real time to show you how decent the image stabilization is. But make no mistake, the FPL is the highest resolution Sigma camera that they have ever released. It's a true hybrid without any compromise. You have the crazy cinema features. You can shoot 12-bit DNG RAW, right? I did not shoot in that setting. I shot in a regular 4K setting, and to me, the files looked gorgeous. But the beauty of the FPL is you can use it as is, bare bones, naked with just a small lens. You can add a grip, you can add an EVF, or if you want to go full bore and add a full cinema rig to it with a display, a matte box, follow focus, etc., you can go all out and do that. It is definitely a camera capable of making short films, indie films, what have you. It also has a mic jack input, 3.5. You can hook up a Rode Video Mic Go. You can hook up a Rode Video Pro or Video Mic Pro right out of the box. On the photo side of things, with that 61 megapixel sensor, the new EVF-11, it makes shooting the camera really, really fun. It's kind of something that grows on you as you use it more. I loved shooting with that EVF. It made it feel like I was shooting an old school film like a CL. As I said in the original FP review, it wouldn't be out of place to have a red dot on it because it feels like what the Leica CL should have been. Square, solid, feels really good in the hand, right? Small lenses, you can adapt Leica M lenses, Voigtlander M lenses, you can adapt Canon lenses, Nikon lenses, whatever you want. It's a mirrorless camera and there's adapters for everything. But if you put on a Leica M lens, add that grip, add that EVF, it's really cool and a lot of fun shooting. Two other lenses I love with this camera are the Sigma 35 and 65 f2 lenses. I own these lenses and I adore them. I've really fallen in love with the 35mm f2. These two lenses go with the FPL kind of like peanut butter goes with jelly, kind of like ham goes with cheese, right? They are a perfect match, and I believe that's why Sigma released these smaller lenses, because when the FP first came out, all we had were large lenses to go with it, and the autofocus was very slow. Now we have the FPL, which added phase detect autofocus, and the autofocus is much improved for continuous tracking. Now, this is pre-production firmware. Sigma told me they're still working on the continuous autofocus performance, but I went ahead and gave it a test anyway because I was curious. I had Debbie walk to the camera to see if it would continue tracking on her face, and it did. Now, while not as fast and sticky as something like a Sony a7S III, it is much improved over the FP, and I'm excited to see where Sigma takes it. All right, so Sigma just sent me the brand new firmware, version 1. I'm gonna take it out on a little trail and film myself with this camera to see how well it focuses on me while I talk to the camera. Property that Debbie and I cleared out last week so we can take a walk through it or drive through it. It's pretty muddy right now though. Okay, I have the camera set up over here to just do a quick focus test with firmware version 1, and you can see how I have it set up. I have the Rode Wireless Go on the side on the cold shoe because the EVF-11 has a place where you can put a cold shoe so you can add accessories. EVF is articulating, which is really nice. The grip is on the camera, and I have the 35 f2. All right, version 1 firmware is on the camera. Is it keeping me in focus? A lot of cameras have problems with this simple task. I did this test with a Leica SL2S. It kept going in and out of focus. I did this test with a Panasonic S5. It kept going in and out of focus. Will the FPL, with the addition of phase detect and the new firmware, keep my face in focus? Now I know it has a slow transition, which is a good thing. We don't want those quick herky-jerky type of transitions from, autofocus or from focus to defocus. Having that slow transition is actually more cinematic, and since this is part cinema camera, I would expect that kind of focus. But most of these kind of cameras in the cinema world, if you're looking at like Blackmagic Pocket Cinema, they're usually useless for autofocus. So the fact that Sigma put in phase detect is pretty cool here. I'm not sure if it's keeping me in focus. I don't have a display or an external monitor right now, so we'll have to see how it does. So this is the 35 f2, wide open at f2. All right, so it seems like the autofocus is doing pretty well, at least for continuous and keeping track of my face. That was pretty fun. So I'm gonna head back in and finish putting together this video. Looks like we have some mud to go through here. What else can I tell you about the camera? It can be used as a webcam. Imagine having a full frame cinema webcam just by hooking it up to your computer via USB-C. And the cool part is it also sends power to your camera, so you're not going to run out of power. With the heat sink in the back, you're not going to overheat as well. It's a really stunning design. You still have the same exact body, and that is good because all the accessories that came out already for the FP system will fit perfectly. I always hated when the iPhone was upgraded and I went to get the new phone and my cases and accessories wouldn't fit. Well, this is cool because if you have accessories with the FP and you want to upgrade or buy it as a second body, you can use those on the FPL. The EVF will work on the FP, and there will be a firmware update coming soon for the FP to give you some of the features like the powder blue color preset, the duotone color preset. The thing that I really enjoyed most about the FPL is the color performance. Again, it just is so rich, so vibrant, it just pops off the screen. Those photos I took of Debbie with the cat, with the dogs, those were shot in the 4-screen preset and right out of camera. They are just gorgeous. I shot those with the 35 f2, wide open at f2. I love, love, love the rendering and the color coming out of the FPL. Another thing is, usually when you up your resolution, so you go from 24 to 61, the one thing I loved about the original FP was its low light performance. Well, I took a test shot at ISO 25600 with the FPL, and I was very surprised at what I saw. It was clean, it kept the color, and it looks really nice, as you can see in this sample I'm providing. So let's talk about price. The FPL body only is $24.99, the EVF is $6.99, or you can buy them both bundled as a kit for $29.99. They are set to ship in mid-April of 2021. I will say, if you're asking who is this camera for, there's other hybrid cameras out there, something like the A7R4, which also has 61 megapixels and also does fantastic video. The FPL is something different, right? It's a modular camera system. As I said, out of the box, it's tiny. It's much smaller than a Sony A7R4. It's much smaller than a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema, which is nowhere near pocketable, but the FP is. So the FPL can be shot naked, as I said, out of the box with a small lens, or you can add the EVF, or you can add a grip, or you can add a cage. You can add whatever you want and make it yours. It's customizable. And I have to say, the color coming out of it, for me, beats anything I see coming out of a Sony. And I'm shooting this on a Sony FX3. I love my FX3, but man, that color coming out of the Sigma is absolutely gorgeous. There's also a thing to be said about the cinematic look, and I'll argue that the footage coming out of the FPL does indeed look more cinematic than some other cameras that I see. You know, and you also have that 12-bit DNG RAW capability right in the camera, which usually comes at a much higher price tag with a much larger camera body. So the Sigma FPL is not a replacement for the FP, it's another member of the family. You can go with the original FP if you're just going to do cinema and save some money, but if you want a true hybrid without compromise, the FPL is offering you amazing photo capabilities, that amazing Sigma color, still great in low light, right? And you still get the amazing cinema capabilities of the camera. It's something that you can grow with. Now, it took me a couple days of getting used to it to be like, wow, this is really beautiful. The feel of it, the big buttons on top, that big record button, the switch to go from stills to cine is just genius. It's so simple. On the bottom, you can pick your color mode, you can set the tonality. The menu is really, really simple. So all around, a great release from Sigma. I really enjoyed my time with it. If you like this video, thumbs up and subscribe, and I will have much more on the way. I'll see you soon. Bye.